What's going on, guys, and welcome to June's episode of Game of the Month, the show where we pick a game at random every month, and at the end of the month we talk about it. This is June's episode. It's a little late, a couple days late. We had a couple issues pop up, and we also had some neighbors moving all day, making a lot of noise, which made recording difficult. But we're here, and we're ready to talk about ESO, Elder Scrolls Online. My name's Seth, and joining me today, of course, is Chevy. Chevy. We did a review of Hell's Paradise over on Tasty Flicks, in case you guys are curious about what we thought of the last episode, the last finale, and the whole season. Go check that out. But since then, how you doing? And are you ready to talk about this MMO that we played? And are you ready to reveal your pick for Game of the Month in July, since your month?
Well, it hasn't been that long, so I'm doing all right. It is getting late, so that is starting to hit me a little bit, but not too bad. I'm still within my normal range. It's probably a later feeling for you. Yeah, other than that, got my game picked.
Sick.
Had a couple choices, though I leaned heavier into one, so
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
We will be discussing ESO in this episode, so stay tuned for that. But before we do that, we typically do a random pick. As if you guys watch regularly, you guys know the system. We have a wheel, it spins, it lands on something. It's a back burner of ours, and we play that throughout the month, and then we talk about it like we're going to do today. But every 3 months, we have a system where somebody who's part of the Tasty Crew gets to pick, override our random system and just pick a game that we are obligated to play that month. I'll give the floor to you. You can do this however you want and reveal to us what we'll be playing in July, since it's your pick.
all right. Well, what I almost picked was Minecraft, because a new update came out and I've been having an itch to play it anyways. I have a lot of projects I'd like to do, and I thought it'd be a good time just generally to revisit it, because I don't think you've played since
The last
two or
time.
three updates now that the game has received. So,
Yeah.
and they have changed quite a lot. So, plus I don't think you had a lot of time last time to actually put any time into it.
Similar to June, this last month. All the games we had to play, I couldn't put as much time into as I wanted to.
So I almost picked that, but I decided to do the responsible thing and pick Final Fantasy 16.
Nice.
So that we have one less thing to think about for the month.
Appreciate that.
I want to play it anyways, but I was gonna do that regardless. But this way, one less thing on our plate. So
Yeah, well, I'm excited because I bought this game. I played it for like 4 hours. Really enjoyed it. Spoiler alert. Maybe I won't by the end of the month, but I've been wanting to play it. But I've had other obligations when it comes to gaming to play between my very tight and limited schedule. So that this is an obligatory game I have to play in July will be great, because it's a game I want to play as well. So, and then hopefully we are starting a little late now. It's the 4th as of recording. Hopefully we can both beat it by the end of the month, because it'd be cool to have a full-on discussion and review of the game as a whole. And to have the full, well, we'll talk about it. If we get there, we'll see if we do spoilers or not. But I think it'd be cool to review something that just came out. So
yeah.
I'm really stoked with that pick. Anything else? All right, so we'll be playing Final Fantasy 16 in July. That's our game of the month, and hopefully you guys are currently playing it.
Even though I was beating it already.
Yeah, and not spoiling anything for anyone, let alone us. People will like you more for that. Exciting. And then also, quick reminder as well, Plus Club. I think the games are available as of right now. Those are Alan Wake, Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, and Endling. Extinction is Forever. So July's in motion. Let's play these games, and let's talk at the end of the month for all the shows we do. So with that, we played a game in June, and that game was Elder Scrolls Online. If you didn't get a chance to play it and you don't know what it is for some reason, it's an Elder Scrolls MMO. It's based in the world of Tamriel, and you play as one of 3 factions. That's during a pre all the games that are out world, where you pick from races and classes that are well, I don't know if there's really classes in Elder Scrolls, but these classes are based around a lot of the abilities that are made famous by the Elder Scrolls games, those games being Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. You guys know these games. And then one note I want to throw out there as well, this is made by ZeniMax. I still see people all the time saying it's a Bethesda game. They own the property, but ZeniMax makes this game. This is not a Bethesda game. So just putting that out there. So yeah, this is a full-on MMO. It's an open world. You run around, you play with random people. It has guilds. It has housing. It has a card, in-game card system. If you want to just play some stuff, it's got dungeons. It's got PvP. It's got most of the common fare you expect from an MMO, just in the Elder Scrolls world, mounts, all that kind of stuff. Has a champion system or champion point system, so similar to like badass points in Borderlands. Once you've hit max level, you can still progress and become more powerful. The game is also, I think, probably the strongest point of the game. In terms of what it offers that other games don't. It has a freeform system that when you go to a region, Vardenfell or Skyrim, you can start questing there and just continue questing there until you 100% that area, and you don't have to bounce between regions. You can just go wherever you want and do whatever you want at any level, which I think will be a pro and a con for different people out there. We both played it, and let's get your impressions of it first, because you've played less than I have, and yeah, you play them most, so I feel like you'll have an opinion on this game.
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing I have to bring up is that every time I've played this game now, I have to download a minimap mod because the game uses a compass system. I'm not a fan, so I'm just gonna throw that part out there real quick. I do play with the mod, so
yeah, just to make that clear for anybody. Who's not familiar or
console players can't do it. So
yeah, but if you've played an Elder Scrolls game, you know that they have like a compass that has the things you're looking for on the compass. As you rotate, you'll see where your stuff's at, and it's supposed to promote like more of an exploration feeling as opposed to just a mini map that shows you exactly where stuff's at, which is obviously why they do it in the MMO. But then because of the mod support, people who are looking for a more traditional and straightforward means of finding things, which I think a lot of people who are hardcore in MMOs just get to a point where they just want to know where to go and what to do. The mod offers that, so it's good. The MMO even offers mod support like that for somebody like you who has no interest in that.
I think mod support's a mixed bag, so
I agree with that.
I've seen what it has done to other games. I won't mention names, but and then games that don't officially support mods and how that's affected them. So
yeah,
there's pros and cons to both systems. That being said, so I can't remember what race my character is. I think they are an Imperial. I'm not 100% sure on that. They could be a Redguard, maybe? I don't think so. I think my character's pretty pale. I can't remember. But and then I made I think it's called a Warden. So it does it has like a lot of defensive / healing type abilities that it favors. So I played with you when I played. I tried playing a couple times this month, and my timing was bad. This is not a bad knock at the game or anything like that, but I couldn't log in the first time.
Yeah, there's issues. Even when I went to play it, I had to reinstall the whole game because it went to play, and it's like, there's an error. I'm like, great. So I had to uninstall, re-download everything, reinstall. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and then the second time when I did get logged in, the servers were going to go down for maintenance in 15 minutes. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, this month is really just not letting me play this game.
June was just a rough month in general for gaming for us.
So we finally did sit down, played with you. I'll let you obviously explain your aspect of it, but I started in Skyrim, and that's where I was when I logged in, and I had been there a while.
I've played through Skyrim twice now. I'm pretty sure it's a place I have 100% at, But I also went back there because Josh was also playing in Skyrim, and so I was questing with him a little bit. And then when you were in Skyrim, I'm like, okay, I'm on my way.
Yeah. I can't remember why I started there. I think at the time it was because people were there.
There's different as the expansions come out. There's like different starting points. I think you hopped in around the time that people were spawning in Skyrim at the beginning.
Well,
Now they have a thing where you just
I was in a portal room when I hopped in. I was pretty positive because I remember when you brought it up, I had already known about it.
yeah. When I originally played, I didn't have that. I had to go through like the original tutorial, and then it sent me somewhere. But anyway,
Yeah, and then I think I just picked it. I think it was just out of familiarity at the time, so because it's the most recent Elder Scrolls game outside of this. So that being said, with you going through and finishing up my story stuff, though, because I was partway through it, I couldn't share it with you, which this game does have a quest sharing system, which is appreciated. I've seen a couple of MMOs do it. I do think it should be a standard, but it is not in every MMO even still. So, including my favorite one, it's not in that. So,
let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but I would like to see quests be repeatable for sharing. So, like if I'm playing and I've already gone through story quests or whatever, it'd be nice if someone could share those with me still. So at the very least, maybe they don't want you doubling up on like the rewards or whatever, but like at the very least, I want to be able to see what the fuck we're supposed to be doing, because that's really annoying when I'm just like, all right, well, lead the way, because I don't know what the hell we're doing. But yeah, most of the like all the side quests and stuff are all shareable, and of course, if you're like on like the third part of that quest line, you're not gonna be able to share that with me. But that's probably why they do it with the story as well.
yeah, I think I had like 2 or 3 sections of the quest line.
But it's
or story.
It's frustrating that more often than not, people are unable to share their quests with me because of their progress through it. So it'd be interesting to see some kind of system that could make that more seamless. Because the game's big thing is like, play with your friends and explore all over the place. Like, yeah, you can, but you got to really like line up your quests. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, it's the same thing for every MMO though. So I'm not trying. I don't think I want to blame necessarily ESO for that. I just think MMOs in general, as much as they are social experiences, I do think questing is better done solo.
well, the only reason I'm even focusing on that for ESO is one of those games. A lot of MMOs aren't like that, where you can quest anywhere at any time at any level. And so if I'm like max level and you're just starting, I can do the same quests you're doing and I'm going to be more powerful than the enemies, but I'll still get like, decent XP, and it simulates, that they're not like completely too weak. Like I'm not like one-shotting them.
I think the only game I know that does that, otherwise, is World of Warcraft. So,
Does it?
yeah,
I'm so out of loop on that game. So
yeah, they changed it at one point where you can just pick what expansion, what zone, and just level, regardless of your level. So,
interesting.
which is I have mixed feelings about. I do
Same.
think systematically it's a good thing for new players and stuff. So, that being said, finally we got through the story though of Skyrim, and at least my opinion of that was the story was kind of eh. And I did skim through a lot of it because it was failing to hook me. But I didn't think it was necessarily boring. I just didn't really, I wasn't like super invested either, because it was just a lot of like, spoiler warning, curing vampirism. Like that was the whole premise of it. It was like making like an antidote or something like that.
That's one thing I like about the storytelling in ESO though. There is an overall story that you can play through for like the game, but each region has its own story and its own things going on, side quests, stuff like that. So it almost feels episodic, and like maybe you find the story in Skyrim weak, but then like the story in another place could be interesting.
Right.
And so they are really trying to simulate that feeling of like Elder Scrolls, where you just walk in a direction and an adventure is waiting for you, as best as they can for an MMO. And I do agree as well. When I played through Skyrim, I didn't think it was that interesting. So
yeah, and I mean, to give it some credit, it does feel like that, country was having its own issues, and you were, just there for it, which is kind of the point. You're not the Dragonborn, in this game, so you're just a person. The teleport system, I thought was weird before. I still think it's a little weird. It's like reasonable price when you do your first teleport, and I'm sure if you play the game long enough, these things become trivial. I know I teleport all over the place in Final Fantasy 14. I don't even think about the money.
There is a passive in the champion tree that will cheapen teleportation.
Well, the thing I was going to get to, though, and maybe that does relate to what I'm about to say, is the first one, as an example, is 90, whatever the currency, gold. And then the next one, if you do it like too soon, is like 230, and then after that, it's like 500 or whatever, and it just keeps it just gets exponentially more expensive, and then it starts cooling down as you don't teleport. I think that's kind of the only thing I could think of, and this is a typical MMO problem for especially games that have been out for a long time, is there is a good way to possibly try to control inflation in the game. Because I'm gonna bring 14 probably a lot because it's like my MMO, but people have a lot of money in 14 now, and there's nothing to spend it on. And I think by implementing systems like this, maybe that's an attempt to combat it. In which case, that makes sense. If someone has a lot of money, they don't care about the teleport fee or whatever. They would be burning larger chunks as they fast travel around a lot. So I don't know. Just, I noticed it, and as a new player, it kind of sucked.
Well, the inflation thing might be a thing for sure, but when you were saying it might get easier later, that's why I brought up the champion points, because you get those when you've hit max level, and so it does become easier to do at a higher level because you are spending points into that to cheapen it. I think it gets exponentially more expensive because they're trying to, especially if you're playing through the game for the first time as this character, because your champion points carry over. So it's probably to incentivize you actually run around and explore as opposed to just be teleporting nonstop. You can if you got the money, but maybe this time you're like, no, it's not that far. I'll just ride there real fast. Especially as you upgrade your mount speed and stuff like that and stamina. A lot of times I'm not even thinking about teleporting because I'm just going so quickly.
I mean, if that is the case, I personally feel that is a terrible incentive for exploration, because you have to get to them first anyways to even activate them, so you've explored at that point. So
yeah, but if you have all these things, it's like you're going to spend the money when you really feel like you need to fast travel, as opposed to sometimes if you've been fast traveling a lot, maybe you're like, well, I want to save some money, so I'm going to actually go on foot. And then all of these dynamic and active quests that happen randomly can happen when you're running around, because that's how they show up, as opposed to if you're teleporting constantly, especially your first time through, you're not going to run into those as often. So I think it's just a way to stall you from teleporting nonstop early on in the game, because later it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just
makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good system, because then you're telling the person how to play the game instead of giving them the choice to play. I don't know.
You can spend the money. Weird.
Now, if you don't have it,
you'll have it. Just not in the first 15 levels.
Yeah. I've lost my train of thought now.
Combat. What do you think? Combat.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I didn't like it last time. I don't like it this time. But that is not Elder Scrolls Online fault. I don't like action MMOs. I am a tab target type of guy. I like macros. That's the kind of MMO I like to play. I think when you start getting the action MMOs, animations and movement start to feel floaty, and it feels like I'm mashing buttons instead of planning buttons more than... I wish it would just lean heavy one way or the other and not try to be in the middle, which is what a lot of action MMOs end up doing. I'm not going to dock it for that because it's a design decision. It's just not my preference. Just as an opinion, not a fan. The visuals are appropriate for Elder Scrolls. It's an older game, so it does age is showing a little bit. But I think almost every MMO that is still alive right now has that problem.
Yep.
So this is not a singular issue.
Yeah, ESO was never the best looking MMO, but it was never the worst looking either. But as they're all aging, it's definitely looking a little dated. I still think I think the detail of the world is decent, but the graphics, the technical graphics are not the best that they could be. There's definitely better looking MMOs, but that is a good point and something I agree with 100%, that they're all, because most popular MMOs right now are all
Like
legacy
a decade
MMOs.
older.
So they're all showing their age, some gracefully but still looking older, some not looking good at all. Like I think Guild Wars 2 still looks really good, but I played that not that long ago and I noticed, oh yeah, this is starting to look like an older MMO now. So and then even like, New World came out, and it definitely looks like a newer MMO, but even that game's not like amazing looking. So yeah, MMOs as a whole are starting to look a little dated, and ESO is showing it a little more than some other ones, but not as bad as many. So
and not just to pick on ESO, like this is a problem in Final Fantasy 14 as well as textures, because resolutions get bigger and bigger, and the textures get blown out, and you can see the flaws way more now. So
yeah.
It's just these kind of things are up to the developers of these games to decide if it's worth the money to do graphical updates, or to just kind of let the community they have ride. So, which we'll see, obviously with ESO. I don't know, but it is something I noticed. And again, I'm not necessarily. This isn't really gonna go too heavy into my grade. It's just it is what it is. I do think they've done a good job of making the countries that you visit. I think that is very cool. Because one thing that when I did play a lot of Elder Scrolls in the past that I thought was kind of cool is all these mod projects to try to make all of the world to explore. Because before, Morrowind and all that, there was, I think it was Arena where you got to explore the whole world, but it's a 2D game. So, and it's been how long? Like being able to explore all these different regions and stuff like that in a 3D setting has always been kind of like this huge pipe dream. And some people made some pretty good progress on that stuff, but like, this game is, officially funded and has the budget to do that kind of stuff. And so you do get to go to all these places in one game. And I think that is a huge perk, especially if you are an Elder Scrolls fan, to be able to just go all over the place,
It's full lore and all sorts of stuff.
If
you're an Elder Scrolls fan, this game definitely has a lot going on for you.
And I think that's a huge positive, because it had some history to fall back on anyways when making the game, and then they were able to take that and I'm sure they're fans of the property, expand upon that and make a whole world that I assume everyone who's a fan of the series is wanting to check out. So
yeah, this game is actually, the devs for this have actually got to create areas like some islands, and they've got to be the first ones to realize certain regions that have never been made into a game.
Yeah, that's cool.
So and they're really excited about it, because I mean that's a lot. Because if you're making Vardenfell or Skyrim or a lot of areas, those are already established, and I think they did a pretty decent job of making it look like their MMO visual style version of those areas. Like, when I was running around and I saw Balmora, I just knew it instantly when I saw it. That was really neat for me. It's, graphically different, obviously, because Morrowind's a lot older, but also has a different art style. But I can still tell by the architecture, the people walking around, just the region and the direction I was walking in, that's really neat for me, because Morrowind is my favorite of the Elder Scrolls games. So seeing stuff like Vivek and stuff like that was and Satanin, really fucking cool to see that stuff. So
well, and on that point, after beating Skyrim, I asked where you wanted to quest, and then you had brought up that you might not have that I might not have access to every zone. And so I checked my quest log and I had access to Morrowind or Blackrock. I can't remember exactly. 2 zones. Anyways, we picked Vardenfell though, so went there, and it was nostalgic. I didn't play a lot of Morrowind, but I played enough to know very much so the beginning zones, and I do recall running towards the starting town is Satanin, right? Yeah, and I remember we were heading there, and I asked her, I was like, "Is this Satanin?" So
You have the Silt Strider out front.
Yeah, so it's interesting that that was translated super well in that regard. Though the area where you meet Vivek, I don't remember that at all. So, because that's supposed to be about Mora, isn't it, or whatever it's called?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Well, it's been a long time since I played Morrowind anyways, but yeah. So that, yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. I also, if I had to pick up a favorite Elder Scrolls style, it'd probably be that one because it's the most like RPG of them. They kind of got very actiony after that, which is also happened in this.
Yeah, Morrowind's a pure RPG. You can sit there and swing at somebody and miss them. So
yeah, which isn't for everyone, obviously, especially these days, as Final Fantasy 16 is kind of shown. Yeah, let's see. I didn't do any dungeons this time. I do have memories of doing them the last time, though. I doubt they've changed a whole lot. But
they do, just like any MMO, though, change in mechanics and detail.
Sure.
The newer they are. But yeah.
And I got kind of a poor taste of it the last time, anyways, because we queued up and got random people who have done it 7,000 times. I'm
So
sure.
there's bum rush.
And
Yeah.
they just ran through it, and I didn't really experience it, so I won't. I didn't even do it this time, so I won't use it at all. But it's not fair for me to judge the dungeons because I didn't technically do them at that point. I like that you get a mount early on in the game. That's
Level 10.
kind of a pet peeve, especially with a lot of free-to-play MMOs. They really want to hold back on that mount for a while, and that's awful. The option to be able to travel faster should be a little sooner, especially if you want to keep people in the game a little longer. So, I don't know if I have much else. No, I think it's about it. I think, and obviously when we get to the grades, I'll give you a more solid opinion. But I think my opinion this time is probably pretty similar to last time, though I don't remember what I said last time. So maybe
Have we reviewed this before?
I thought we had before.
I don't remember that.
Maybe we just talked about because I played it and I didn't do that a choice. No offense to the game, it's not on my priority list ever. So
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing it for the show.
Interesting. I don't know why I would have played it otherwise. So
Maybe in a
this is
lull MMO
this
wise.
is my third time playing the game now. So
We definitely haven't reviewed it twice before this. Because that'd be fucking crazy.
I don't know why I would have played it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, yeah. I mean that was pretty much my experience. It was all right.
All right. Yeah, so I've played this in the past. For anybody who's curious, I am champion level like 420 something, so I've played it a little bit. Not in the thousands like a lot of you guys probably are, but I have played it enough. I've completed like 3 zones completely. I've beaten the main quest. And right now I'm just kind of running around, finishing up regions, getting my champion points, which I do think is a cool system. I'll talk about that. Yeah, this time around with the limited amount of time I did have, I think I put about like maybe 12 to 15 hours into it this last month, and that was spread over like 3 different play sessions. Mostly I wanted to get a taste of Necrom, the new expansion. I'm sure anybody who's playing ESO has already played through it, beat it, whatever. I know they added like 2 new companions, the new Arcanist, that I have played a little bit of, and a new story and new area, so that's cool. I have not completed it, but I have played it. So talking about that first, the Arcanist, I think I got to like level 18, so I'm not that far into it. They seem to use a lot of, I forget where the realm is, but they harness power from a different realm, and so most of their moves kind of remind me of oh God, what's that guy from DC with the ring that brings in Green
Lantern?
Yeah, Green Lantern. I'm not casting in like green,
school buses,
stuff like that, but I am shooting green stuff at people a lot. And I know there's a system where you build up, I think it's Crux, and you're able to do more damage with that, which I think is an interesting system. But so far, I don't love or hate the Arcanist. If you're curious, my main is a Necromancer that I have a melee build with that I enjoy quite a bit. But which is weird because I'm not a big Necromancer person. In anything really, but this game has the freedom that lets you build characters, whether you want to be a tank, a healer, melee. You can do it all in this with any class. Obviously, they're going to lean into different strengths or whatever. But anyway, the Arcanist. All my characters that I pick and I've built all use magic, and so I keep picking elves, which I typically don't play either, but it is Elder Scrolls, so there's a lot of elf types, and so it's easy to maybe land on them. But yeah. So anyway, I forgot what kind of elf type I used as my Necro, but I'm also playing an elf with my Arcanist, so might be the same kind. I don't remember. High elf, maybe.
I mean,
Dwemer. I think those are the dark elves. Anyway, yeah. I'm off from my my Elder Scrolls lore. But yeah, Arcanist is okay so far. Hopefully it gets better. If you're playing it, let me know in the comments what you think of Arcanist and if it's something I should continue playing or not. Because I'm not super in love with it, but it's interesting enough. And I actually love that they introduced a new class. It's pretty cool. The Necrom story so far is interesting. It feels kind of samey in terms of like the questing. I'm not too far into the story, but I like that it's delving into like different dimensions and stuff, even though there is similar stuff in Elder Scrolls already that feels kind of samey as well. But it's fun enough. I haven't unlocked the companions yet, but I do have companions, and I really like that system in this game. I think it offers something that feels similar to Elder Scrolls. You can bring someone with you. You can level them up. You can put gear on them. You can give them one of your mounts that you happen to not be using, which I think is a nice touch. I like that you can be like hands-on with your companions in this. And ever since they introduced them, I like they have their own like quest lines and stuff. So every companion kind of has their own story. So it's a cool touch. But I don't have the new ones, so I need to look into that. I think I'm currently on one of the quest lines for that, so I'll probably have it unlocked pretty quickly because I remember the last couple companions I unlocked were pretty fast. So yeah, that's what I think of Necrom so far, and it's pretty cool. Glad to see new content, and it was perfect timing for us playing this. So yeah, things I like about ESO that I was reminded of. We already talked about the graphics. They're not the best, but I do still think that the detail and world design is good. So there's definitely positive still to the visual style. Every region looks different, which is great. They all have their own feel, their own people, their own lore. I actually have kind of fallen out of being an Elder Scrolls fan. I used to be a big Elder Scrolls fan when I was younger. Like I said, I love Morrowind. I liked Oblivion. When I first came out, I loved it. But over time, in retrospect, I'm like, wasn't as good as I remember it being. And then Skyrim, I was starting to already feel burnt out on Bethesda games. Even though it's not a bad game. It's more of an action-y RPG, and that wasn't really what I wanted from an Elder Scrolls game. So anyway, with that said, playing ESO kind of rekindled. Every time I play it, kind of rekindles my interest in the Elder Scrolls world, because I think its universe feels very unique in its races, its classes, its just cultures that they have. I fell in love with Morrowind and still love Morrowind when I first played, just because of how different it looked than a lot of other fantasy games in terms of like being this like swampy, mushroomy, like a lot of, for some reason, crime and like syndicates and like slavery happening in that area. It had a whole different feeling to it than a lot of fantasy I'm used to otherwise. So playing this, it always kind of reminds me of why I originally liked Elder Scrolls. Speaking of Morrowind, revisiting that area is always fun. Recognizing areas that I'm nostalgic for is a blast. I love the music so much from Morrowind, so every time I go in that area, I can hear all these songs that I love. I have a house there in Varnfell that I got because I like Morrowind so much. I wanted, if I was gonna have a house, and I plan on having, I have like a couple of the studio apartments that suck, but at least they give you something to build with. But I did buy a house, and I just wanted to be able to stand on my balcony and see the silge striders and mushrooms and swamp. So that's really cool. With that being said, I think a really strong thing that ESO has is its housing. Has a varied amount of houses in different regions. You can live anywhere you want. So if you're like a Skyrim person, you have Skyrim, you can live there. You can live anywhere. And decorating your house, getting new parts, whether you are collecting them through dungeons or you're purchasing them or buying them with the ESO coins, there's a lot. There's a lot to put in your house and decorate, and you can really get, I spent hours and hours decorating my house, programming my pets and the way they move around, and it's a lot of fun, and it's cool because you can bring your friends over to check it out. So it's got those social features that you want from MMO, and I think it does housing better than most MMOs, in my experience. I'm sure there's great examples out there, but it's really good. They did a really good job with it. So, so visually it's cool. Housing's cool. I actually like the PvP in this game as well. PvP is hit or miss for me in MMOs, and I think the PvP is a lot of fun in ESO. Surprisingly, it's kind of bursty too. I think that's maybe where a lot of MMOs have gone now, where it's like you get in a match and you're out pretty quickly. Kind of has like a Call of Duty vibe where like you're in and out of matches more regularly than like old school MMOs where PvP matches last like forever.
Sometimes literally.
Yeah, or like some big giant world map PvP, or like I remember back in the day there'd be like these huge maps you had to like ride your mounts to get to places, and like the match lasted for like 40 minutes. Which, like, if you're like living in that MMO, that's probably not a big deal. But like when you got like work or like you gotta go do shit,
you're an adult.
I don't have time to like spend that much time in like a PvP match. So yeah, these like small team PvP matches are a lot of fun, and I think the classes can be built in ways that make team comp a lot of fun in PvP. I think the dungeons are good too. They're not the best I've ever experienced in an MMO, but they're pretty decent, especially the newer ones. You can definitely tell which ones the newer ones are. I like that they all have like a couple bosses, then a final boss, and they all have mechanics, and there's things to figure out. So that is definitely welcome. I like the mount system in the game, even though I have my speed maxed out and my stamina maxed out, I think. So I just cruise all over the place. I think the third one's storage. But yeah, it lets you gradually kind of build up your mount to the point where it's like, top tier, as opposed to other MMOs where like, it's like a 10%, 20%, 40%. And this, like, you have a stat you're raising for all your mounts. So when you're collecting, this game's all about collecting stuff. Basically you're just picking what mount looks a certain way, and your stats carry over, so that's cool. Main quest of the game's decent. I've already beaten it, but just kind of thinking about it now when I'm talking about ESO, it's decent. And let's see, there's something else I was going to touch on. Oh, combat. Combat is fine for me. It's not my favorite. It's not the worst. I recognize that they want this game to feel similar to the action RPG that is Skyrim, and so the combat is somewhere in between that action RPG and MMO with some moves. You have to, aim and use accordingly and heal accordingly, so that does feel more MMO-like, but it is not like, tab targeting or whatever. But it's also not just like run up and swing at people too. There's a cadence to the the cooldowns and a pacing to the combat that still feels like an MMO, but it is striving to be actiony feeling, and so it does definitely feel like that compared to a more traditional MMO. Also, this is one of the only MMOs that I feel like they designed it this way. I prefer on a controller because I feel like the game because the UI changes if you use a controller or a mouse and keyboard. And I think I prefer the way it controls on a controller, and even the combat more on a controller, which is really bizarre because I'm been playing MMOs since I was a kid, all the way back to like Dark Age of Camelot. So like, definitely not a stranger to MMOs, but this was definitely designed for being accessible to everybody in terms of like how to play it, combat, stuff like that. But also, it works great on a controller, so it was built for console and PC. It's not a bad thing. It's just really weird that I will plug my controller in for this game typically, because I'm like, it plays better on a controller. Yeah, so combat I like, but it's not the best. But it really comes down to what you're playing as. Exploration's cool too. That's one thing I think this game does well is it does try to feel similar to if you're running around in a Morrowind and Oblivion or Skyrim and you find a random person here and they got a quest for you, or you find this cave and there's something going on there, or there's a main quest, but while you're on the way there you run into other quests. And that's not necessarily just an Elder Scrolls thing, but there is more of a organic, you're on your own adventure feel to Elder Scrolls that the MMO is trying to recapture while still trying to maintain being an MMO. And I think they do a good job at that. And then, champion points, I think, are a nice touch because I hit max level and I'm still leveling. I'm still getting perks. And those perks, even though when I play a new character, they don't stay the same, which is good, I get to maintain my champion points, even with like a level 1, Arcanist. So the first thing I did when I started that character up is I spent all my champion points. And that took a while because I have a good chunk of them, and I'm sure people with like 1,000 champion level have plenty to spend. But I like that system because it feels like any character you're playing isn't a waste. When I'm playing my highest level character, that's going to affect all my characters. And when I'm playing a character that's not max level, I'm playing that character, I'm leveling that character, I'm having that experience. So it's a cool system. One thing that it's not a negative, but it's kind of weird. My Arcanist feels too powerful, like really strong compared to all the things I should be fighting. Like I'll fight a boss, and I'm like, that guy died so quickly, it's ridiculous.
I mean, that sounds Elder Scrolls accurate to me.
Sure, it's just it just shows that you're being rewarded for playing the game, and so your character's more powerful than they should be. But also, you better enjoy the challenge of any of the game your first time through, because after that you'll never experience it again unless you refuse to play with those champion points spent. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that regard, but I don't mind because I'm a fiend for leveling up and getting perk points in games and building out a character. So I'd rather be rewarded than not for playing a game. What else? Card system's actually pretty fun. I didn't play it this month, so maybe I shouldn't be mentioning it, but I have played it in the past. I'm glad they added that. That's one thing I think the game was kind of missing, was some kind of social system that wasn't just like housing, hanging out, showing each other your pets. Like it needed some kind of game, and now it has one, so that's good. Overall though, coming back to it, I still feel the same as I've always felt when it comes to ESO. I think it's a really, really good Elder Scrolls MMO that offers a lot to do, and it's very freeform and inviting to everybody. And though the dungeons can kind of feel like it lacks any kind of like challenging hardcore feel to it. I'm sure you can do dungeons on a hard mode, I believe. I've done it before, I think, but it feels like a relaxing and kind of casual MMO. That's fine. I always enjoy playing it. So, and I enjoyed playing it for the little time I did this month, especially exploring the new content that I need to beat. Also, their ESO Plus system's interesting because You get like extended like crafting storage or something like that, and then you get access to all the prior content except for the newest expansion. So for anybody who doesn't want to go through and buy every single expansion, you're gonna play for a month. You just need access to that stuff right now. You can pay for ESO Plus, but if you are like dedicated and hardcore, you don't be paying for that. Even though there's benefits to it, you can just buy the expansions, and you're gonna buy the new ones anyway because you have to. But it's an interesting system, and something I pay for. So it's definitely seems worth it when I am playing the game, even though I I fell into a trap of just letting them charge me when I wasn't playing it. So I was supporting the game while not playing it. So you're welcome, ZeniMax. Yeah, but overall, fun game. I like it. Not the best ever in terms of MMOs, but I think there is a reason why it's one of the more popular ones right now still. Not like top 3, but I think it's like in the top 5 or 6.
It's hard to say. No one gives their numbers out.
True. Well, I always assume it's like WoW, Final Fantasy 14. I know Guild Wars 2 bounces around a bit. Black Desert, I think, is popular.
It's pretty niche, but yeah.
Yeah. And ESO I hear about. I think there's one I'm missing, but I can't remember. But yeah.
Sure as hell ain't Lost Ark and New World right now.
True. Yeah, they really got to figure out New World, because that's a really good foundation that doesn't have enough to it. But anyway, this isn't Tastecast. We could talk about that all day, I'm sure. Anything else you want to say? Let's jump into recommendations. I think the two obvious ones are, if you're into MMOs at all and you haven't played this, I would recommend you check it out. I think it's a good, competent one. It's not going to have some of the traditional systems you're used to, but it's not super alien either. In terms of MMOs, it's definitely like an MMO. I think that name gets overused in gaming nowadays.
Definitely.
It has been since Xbox 360. People call anything with like 20 people in it an MMO, and I'm like, that's not what an MMO is. This is an MMO, and it feels like an MMO. So if you're into MMOs, definitely check it out. I think it's an easy recommendation. If you're into Elder Scrolls, I think it's a must play, because there's a lot of Elder Scrolls here. And I feel like even though it's not exactly the same as the games you've played in the past, it's made by people who really like Elder Scrolls and want to help create the lore of Elder Scrolls. And I think they do a good job at it if you're okay with the different visual style, but it's still pretty close. I would recommend it, especially if you're like a huge Skyrim fan, which is like everybody. You can go to Skyrim here. You can, if you like MMOs and you love Skyrim, you got a Skyrim MMO right here. Or if you're like me and you loved Morrowind, it's neat to go and check it out. So in an MMO, like it's pretty cool. So, and anything in between. So yeah, if you're into Elder Scrolls MMOs, if you're into more specifically action MMOs, if you like, if you played Neverwinter, was that what it's called back in the day, the D&D MMO? Mm-hmm. If you liked that, you might like this, because it has kind of a more actiony combat system. If you like card games, this has a card game where you collect cards, you can battle people. I don't know if you should play an MMO for that specifically, but you'll get to play it if you play this, so that's pretty cool. If you like multiplayer games, I would loosely recommend it, because you and your friends could play this, and it's not full on an MMO or full on an action game, so be a little malleable in what you expect from the gameplay. But I think it's pretty inviting for most people. I think most people could probably play this and get it. Unlike, you know, a traditional MMO, I know people who just straight up don't want to play that.
Sure.
So I think this might be a little more of a bridge to MMOs for certain people. So and then if you like fantasy games, I would check it out as well. You can play this game with friends or by yourself. So if you want kind of a solo experience in a new like fantasy world or whatever, I would check it out.
House decoration.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
But outside of that, you kind of said the ones I was going to say. Specifically, I was going to say high fantasy, but you said fantasy. So
yeah, the housing. Yeah, I do still. I think it's some of the best in MMOs. So If you like decorating, collecting stuff, and having something to show for it, this game's all about collectibles. And like pets and stuff too, if you want to collect those. But yeah, your house can really show it off, and all your pets and everything you've collected can all be displayed there. So yeah, definitely good for housing. Anything else? I mean, it's an MMO, so it's pretty much that. All right. You went with your impressions first, so I will grade unless you got anything else to say. I'm going to give ESO a really, really, really strong B+. It does a lot of things right. The gameplay is fun, but not amazing. The visuals I appreciate, but technically are not great looking. It has really cool systems like champion points, mount systems, great freedom, even though sometimes it does feel kind of like everything's too easy because they really want you to be able to play anywhere at any time, which I appreciate the sentiment, but at the same time, I don't ever really feel like I'm being challenged, so I'm just kind of playing it while listening to it like a podcast to keep myself busy. And it's got good PvP, all that stuff. I already went all over this, but I just don't think it has like any must-play features, but it has a lot of good features, and it's solid across the board. So yeah, it's really, really strong B+. I'd go A if it had something about it that was like, I have to play that now. But to be fair, I don't have any MMO right now that I feel like I have to play. So, but this is the one I'm playing, so it's pretty good. B+.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, personal choices of MMOs aside, I don't really have like any major complaints about the game. I think, especially having played in beta and then multiple times now after launch and seeing the direction the game has gone, I think they've done a great job in that. The game in beta was not fun for me at all. There is things here I can enjoy.
Yeah, the beta was bad.
Yeah, this is just not my preference. So
the class you played in the beta was,
I used a ranger.
Yeah, whatever, it was not like very soloable.
No, I hated it. I think it does offer quite a lot, but I do think it is, for the most part, missing a hook. Like, I just don't have a desire to play the game. And I can't put my finger on it other than they just haven't, found that magic formula for me to want to hop in and play it. So I'm going to give it a B-. I think it's a good game. I think there is definitely an audience for it, as it's still alive, so it's proving it that itself. But just even from the perspective of someone who has played most MMOs that exist and have kind of figured out my preferences, I do appreciate it. There are different choices out there for people who don't like tab target MMOs, or maybe don't like a lot of the free-to-play models that exist out there, etc. So I think it is a unique experience in the MMO world, and those are always welcome. So
yeah, I think it's a fair grade coming from you, considering you've already mentioned it, but this isn't your preferred style of MMO, but you still see that there's something there. It's not just like a shit MMO. So yeah. It's interesting how we're both in the B range, but just I'm higher, you're lower on it, because I just couldn't give it an A, because there's not the one thing about it that I'm like, oh dude, it's so good. Even though a couple things I already went over, but like, I think the housing is superior to most MMOs, and for me personally, the PvP is, because that's really hit or miss for me. And if I enjoy your PvP in your MMO, you're doing something right, because I've played PvP in a lot of MMOs, and most of them I kind of hate it. I think the pacing and the time to kill is way too long, and this just feels a little more brawler and to the point, which I appreciate. Of course, you have healers and stuff, so it does prolong things. But anyway, I digress. It definitely has its strengths for sure. Things I think are superior than a lot of MMOs, but in terms of the core questing and all that stuff, it's fine. So yeah, so B- and B+. Anything else you want to say on it?
Nope.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what do you guys think about ESO and Necrom if you're up to date and you're playing the new content. What are some of your favorite things about ESO and Necrom? What do you think of the Arcanist? Maybe you don't like ESO or maybe you have some criticisms of it. Let us know in the comments. Things you think are weak about the game or possibly you hate the whole game. Why do you hate it? Maybe you have another MMO that's your favorite. Maybe you're like a WoW person. You're like, yeah, ESO sucks. Let us know why. Fairly. Don't just be an asshole about it. But yeah, and tell me the things you like about it. What do you think about the champion point system? What do you think about the mount system? What's your champion level? Maybe you're fucking super elite. Let me know about that. And should I stick with the Arcanist? Are you digging it? And what's your favorite class? Let me know everything you're thinking about in the comments below when it comes to ESO. But that's going to do it for this episode of Game of the Month. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes. I'm choking on my teeth. Check out our other episodes. Check out our socials and streams linked down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time on our Discord linked down below as well. And we have a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel more than liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you're brand new. Also, I don't know if I mentioned or not, but we have audio forms of this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, the podcast platforms, and I have a TikTok link down below if you'd like to check out my shorts that I can only post on TikTok and not on YouTube for some weird reason. I've been Seth. Thank you for joining me, Chevy. Thank you guys for joining us, and stay tuned. I have some stuff I would like to react to soon, so maybe a Taste Cast, maybe a TLG Reacts in the future. But until then, have a good one, guys, and take it easy.